There is a Volvo sitting in a driveway tonight with oil in the sump that should have come out 4 months ago. And the reason is not laziness. It is a number on a screen that the owner trusted. Volvo builds engines that punch far above their size. The 2-litre 4 in a modern XC60 makes more power than the old 5-cylinder it replaced, out of half a litre less. But that engine is turbocharged, direct injected and running thin oil at tight clearances. And it is far more sensitive to how you treat it than the old bricks ever were. The bricks forgave you. This one keeps score. 5 settings, every one of them is real. Every one of them is sitting in your center display or your driver display right now. And every one of them is switched on from the factory in most cars. I have ranked them, counting down, so the one doing the most damage lands last. And number 1 is the strange one, because it is the only setting on this list you cannot actually turn off. There is no toggle for it. All you can do is override it. And it is quietly costing Volvo owners entire engines. Every one of these settings was engineered to shave fuel consumption or improve comfort. And every one of them does exactly what it says. Nobody at Gothenburg was trying to kill your engine. The damage happens in the gap between what the setting is optimized for and how you actually drive. So I am not going to tell you all 5 are disasters. 2 of them are fine. Knowing which 2 is the whole point. Number 5. Eco Coast, which lives inside Eco Drive mode. Start with the contradiction. Eco mode saves fuel by disconnecting your engine from the wheels, and at the exact instant it disconnects, your engine starts burning more fuel than it was a second earlier. That is not a typo. Volvo's own owner documentation for the US market says that in Eco, quote, Eco Coast functionality is activated and engine braking is disabled. And it works at cruising speed, not around town. Lift off the gas at highway speed and the transmission uncouples. The car rolls free like a bicycle down a hill. Now, when you are actually engine braking, your Volvo does something beautiful. It shuts the injectors off completely. Coasting in gear on a closed throttle burns 0 fuel. In Eco Coast, the engine has been disconnected, so it has to idle to stay alive, and idling burns fuel. Volvo is betting the extra distance you roll beats what the idle costs, and on flat, open highway, that bet usually pays. But look at what moved. All the deceleration your engine used to absorb now goes into your brake pads and rotors instead. Drop down a long grade in Eco and there is no engine holding you back at all. It is friction material and heat is what fades brakes. Your transmission is also cycling clutch packs in and out thousands of extra times per tank. Here is the honest verdict. This one does not hurt your engine at all. It hurts brakes and it works the transmission harder, and if you live somewhere flat, you will never notice. If you live in the mountains, take it out of Eco before the descent and let the engine do its job. Number 4 is the one everybody blames on the wrong component. Number 4, automatic start-stop. The popular answer is the starter motor. Ask any comment section and you get the same reply within 30 seconds. All that restarting is chewing through your starter. Wrong. And it has been wrong for over a decade. Stop-start starters are not normal starters. They run needle bearings instead of oil-impregnated bushings, different brush compounds, dual solenoids for softer pinion engagement, and gear ratios chosen because most brush wear happens during coast down rather than cranking. And on any Volvo wearing a B5 or B6 badge from around 2020 onward, the starter motor is barely involved. Those cars run a 48-volt belt-driven integrated starter generator, and it is the belt, not a pinion crashing into a ring gear, that spins the engine back up in a fraction of a second. So what is the real cost? The bearings. When your engine shuts down, the crankshaft settles onto its main bearings and the oil film between them gets squeezed out. On restart, there is a brief window of boundary lubrication where metal is riding on metal before oil pressure rebuilds. And that window is where most engine wear in a modern car actually happens. A vehicle without stop-start might see 50,000 start events across its entire life. Switch stop-start on and let it fire at every light and every crosswalk, and that figure climbs toward 500,000. Bearing manufacturers responded with polymer-coated overlays designed to survive it, and those coatings work, but they work on the assumption that the oil separating those surfaces is the right oil and it is fresh. Second cost, smaller but real. Every shutdown parks hot oil inside a hot turbo bearing housing with no flow through it. Verdict: slow burn, not a grenade. If you drive a B5 or a B6, leave it on and stop worrying. If you have a T5 or a T6 from the mid-2010s with a conventional starter and your commute is stoplight to stoplight, that button by the gear selector is worth pressing every morning. Number 3 only applies to one kind of Volvo, and it is the most expensive electricity you will ever buy. Number 3. Charge mode on the T8 Recharge. Volvo's manual is refreshingly blunt about it. When charge is activated, the hybrid battery is charged using the combustion engine in order to obtain increased electric drive at a later time. Read that again. You bought a plug-in hybrid. The entire premise is that the electricity comes from a wall socket at a few cents a mile. Charge mode says no thanks and asks the gasoline engine to make it instead. Follow the energy. Gasoline becomes heat, heat becomes crankshaft rotation, rotation becomes electricity, electricity becomes chemistry in the battery, and chemistry becomes rotation again at the drive motor. You lose a slice at every conversion. You are paying gasoline prices for electricity, then throwing away a large fraction of it before it reaches a wheel. And that is only the money. The engine cost is run hours. The whole reason a T8 engine tends to age well is that it spends a lot of its life switched off. Charge mode takes that advantage and hands it back, running the engine at sustained load in exactly the situations where it would otherwise have been asleep. There is one legitimate use. You know you are driving into a city centre where you will want electric range and there is no charger at the other end. That is what it is for. Any other time, the mode you actually want is hold, which just protects the charge you already have instead of manufacturing more. Number 2 is the setting that makes your car warm on a freezing morning while hiding a stone-cold engine. And then number 1, the one Volvo will not let you switch off. Pause and drop your guess in the comments. Which of these 5 do you think you cannot turn off at all? I go through the comments on every video, and this one is going to split people down the middle, because the obvious answer is wrong. And since you are already paused, one more thing. Open your center display and go to Settings. You will want it for the last 2. Now the top 2. Number 2. The Preconditioning and Parking Climate Timer. The contradiction here is subtle. Getting into a warm car is not bad for your engine. Getting into a warm car that convinces you the engine is warm when it is not, that is the problem. The timer sits in the climate menu of your center display, and you can also set it from the Volvo Cars app. In markets that got the fuel-driven heater, Volvo's own manual states plainly that the heater uses fuel from the car's normal fuel tank, and that it shuts itself off automatically if the fuel level drops too low. So it burns gasoline while the car is parked in your driveway. Fine, that is the deal, and it is a small amount. Here is what that heater actually heats. Coolant, not oil. And coolant temperature is what your gauge and your engine management watch. Oil in the sump comes up to temperature far more slowly, and in genuinely cold weather that can take 10 to 20 minutes of driving, not sitting. So you open the door to a warm cabin, glance at a needle sitting exactly where it sits on a July afternoon, and you pull onto the freeway, driving it like a fully warmed engine. Meanwhile, the oil down in the pan is still thick, the bearing clearances are still cold, and the turbo is spooling into all of that. Add the direct injection problem. On a cold start, fuel that has not fully vaporized washes down the cylinder walls and ends up in the sump, thinning the oil. That happens on every cold start in every direct injected car. Do it every morning through a winter, and the oil in your pan is measurably not the oil you poured in. Honest verdict. Preconditioning is a good feature, and I would not disable it. Clear glass on a frozen morning is a safety win that outranks all of this. The failure is behavioral, not mechanical. Keep it and drive the first 3 or 4 miles gently anyway. And if you are on a recharge that is not plugged in, know that preconditioning is pulling from your traction battery, and the engine repays that loan later. Number 1. The service reminder interval. 10,000 miles or 12 months, whichever comes first. That is Volvo's published factory maintenance interval for oil and filter on recent gasoline models, and the counter in your car is faithfully ticking toward it right now. That counter counts miles. That is all it counts. It does not count cold starts. It does not count idle hours. It does not know whether you did 10,000 miles of steady interstate cruising or 10,000 miles of 4-mile school runs where the oil never once reached full temperature. It has no idea that EcoCoast has been idling your engine down every off-ramp, that stop-start has been cycling your bearings through boundary lubrication 500 times a week, or that your morning preconditioning has been letting you drive away on cold oil since October. 2 Volvos, identical numbers on the counter, and completely different oil inside them. Why this specific engine punishes you for it. In April 2022, a class action was filed in federal court in New Jersey, Buchanan versus Volvo Car USA, covering 2013 to 2016 cars with the 2-litre 4 and the 2.5-litre 5. The complaint alleges the piston rings cannot clear oil from the cylinder walls on the downstroke, so oil reaches the combustion chamber and burns, and plaintiffs put the cost of replacing an affected engine north of $10,000. It settled privately in 2023 and was dismissed, with no class ever certified. I am not telling you your rings are failing. I am telling you how oil control rings fail. They carbon up and stop scraping, and what carbons them up is oil that has been diluted, sheared, and cooked past its useful life. There is a second thread. Small, turbocharged, direct injection engines are vulnerable to low-speed pre-ignition, where the mixture lights off before the spark plug fires at low revs and high load. When it happens, cylinder pressure spikes far past what the engine was designed for, and that is what cracks ringlands and bends connecting rods. The main defense against it is oil chemistry, which is exactly why the AP-ISP specification exists. Fresh oil carries that protection. Tired oil does not carry it nearly as well. So the counter is not lying about mileage. It is silent about everything that matters. And here is the twist. You cannot turn this one off. There is no switch in settings, system, service and repair that makes it smarter. The only move available is to override it with your own calendar. 5,000 miles or 6 months on a car that lives in traffic, an approved full synthetic to Volvo's own specification, and a filter every time. An oil change costs less than a set of tyres. The alternative carries a 5-figure price tag. So there is your 5. EcoCoast eats brakes and leaves the engine alone. Stop-start is fine on a B5 or a B6 and worth switching off on an older T5 in city traffic. Charge mode is the most expensive electricity you can buy. Preconditioning is a good feature that teaches a bad habit. And the service counter, the one thing you cannot disable, is the one quietly ending engines. None of this makes Volvo a bad car. It makes Volvo a car with opinions. And those opinions were written for a fuel economy test cycle rather than for your commute. Learn which defaults were built for you and which were built for a lab, and these engines go a very long way. If you want to know how far, watch the video where I go through the Volvo engines that reliably pass 300,000 miles, and the exact ones I would avoid on a used lot. Owner reports on that one got genuinely heated.